Okay, shutter speeds for flight. The average shutter speed for flight, 1,000th of a second to 2,500th of a second. Those are my averages. Those aren't necessarily your averages. But those are what I want to try to keep my shutter speeds up for. And the reason is I want to try to freeze the action. So if I'm working with a long telephoto lens, and this is pretty much what this is based on. Let's say I'm using a 500 or 600 millimeter lens. I really want that, shutter speed. So, shutter speed, the more you've got, the better you're going to be for freezing action. So why 2,500th of a second? Because I'm not going to want to put my ISO way up there. So if I put my ISO up at 1,000, yeah, I'd probably be able to get more shutter speed. But I'm working with shutter speeds around 400, ISO around 400, up to about 800 is where I don't really want to go higher than. But I will if I have to. If I'm at Wakota and I'm shooting the great blue heron and they're coming in a path that I know that they're coming in, they're big birds and they're not flying very far, so they don't have to pick up any speed. My shutter speed does not need to be as fast. But if I'm working at the Barnegat Jetty and say I'm working with a harlequin duck that's coming out like a bullet, you really need a lot of shutter speed to slow that down. So it really is about, if they're flying right at you, if they're landing, lots of different things. But keep your shutter speeds up if you want to get sharper flight shots. Here's a shot in Bosque, and a lot of people would frame this really tight and then exclude that one bird, but for me that's the story, the birds coming in, and I just love these sandhill cranes. They're big, they're just, they're huge, and he's flying in, so the shutter speed doesn't have to be as tremendously fast as if it were a hummingbird or so people know hummingbirds, you see how small they are and how fast they're, the same thing with puffins, but these big cranes and big herons are slower moving birds. Here's another one, and again, I've included the bird in the background, nice juxtaposition. Do I care if he's sharply focused? No, this is where I want your eye to go, but I want you to see the rest as a nice, pleasing background.
Much of flight photography has to do with the direction of the wind. In general, you want the sun behind you and the wind behind you, at least coming from somewhere from over your right or left shoulder.
Yeah, and so for birds, I'm never leaving the car without setting my ISO to a minimum of 400. My ISO is never at 100 like with landscape. So, that's one of the things, because that'll help, push up my shutter speed. And for this bird coming in, it's just a matter of just, taking the series as they come in. Rapid fire, there's a lot of different things that you want to be on. My aperture, I'm not as concerned about that. So I could shoot this at a 5.6, I could shoot a 7.1 and an f8. I'm not as concerned. Right now with flight, I'm thinking shutter speed. 2 for 1. Now with 2 in the frame, it's not as easy, but they're pretty fast birds. These are the snow geese at Bosque. And just shooting a little wider was, allowed me to get the 2 in the frame.
One of the things I wrote as early as the original Art of Bird Photography was, when unexpected action happens, push the shutter button. If something great's going on and you hesitate, you're not getting the shot. So here I'm working in manual mode photographing coastal brown bears with a salmon, which was the savior for me. But it was very dark. I was at a 200th of a second at 5.6 with the 600, with the, what do I have up there? The 502 and a 1.4 teleconverter. And somebody said, bald eagle from the left. So my brain said, wow, a 200th of a second is much too slow for flight. But then the other part of my brain overrode and said, when unexpected action happens, take the picture. So I swung it, I tracked, I made 3 frames, and 1 frame got a perfect pose with a sharp eye and the rain even being sent off in different directions and a nice blur to the wingtip. Now, one thing on the distance, some of the birds really flap fast. You can be at a 3200th of a second with a gull flying hard and flapping and have blur in the wingtips. You can be at a 30th and have almost the whole bird sharp. So it depends on, really, the slower your shutter speed, the more important it is to match the speed of the bird with your panning rate.
Yes, yes. This is a surf scoter at Barnegat, and so this is a pretty difficult shot to get.
Much better on the side screens.
Yeah, the side screens are much better. Okay, wings down. So now we get to see the top of all the beautiful feathers and everything. And I love when the wingtips curl up. To me, that's just special.
And here Denise is right on sun angle, right on sun angle.
Thank you, Arthur. So for this, you know, capturing a little bit of the reflection I thought was really cool. This shot's really about exposure, exposure, exposure. You know, the wrong exposure on this, you're done. So this is my shot of a gannet, and on a boat with a 70 to 200 millimeter lens, and just, you know, hand holding, obviously, but just trying to get them right at the right moment. So it's really, really difficult when sometimes when they're that close. You know, when they fill the frame and they're that close, it actually gets harder. It's much easier when you crop them. So I see a lot of people who show me a picture and they'll say, look, isn't this great? And I say, oh, is that how you captured it? Oh, no, it's a crop. It's a small crop. Oh, let me see the original. It's a little dot. Yeah, I could do that too. Fill the frame and then show me. Okay, so here's the situation in Japan. This was in the final round of BBC, and it's full frame, not a crop pixel. You know what? Just trying to get them full frame like that in the viewfinder, just to make sure you're not clipping any wings and everything, was just I had to keep doing it over and over again. I'd clip a wing because I was getting greedy. I wanted to fill the frame completely. So when I finally got it, even, you know, getting 100 of them, and I was so excited to get one that was like perfect. I was like, yes! So it's a thrill for me. I mean, it's action, it's exciting, and if you haven't tried flight photography, I would say practice, 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 and you'll get the bug. It will be so exciting, and once you get a really good capture, it'll pump you.
I wish I could say.
I love this wing position with the neck down. I love that, and I can see the details in both the top and the bottom, underside of the wing.
Long lens technique for flight or for making good, sharp still pictures. Most people over the last 2 decades have been teaching you to put a hand up on the top of the long lens. About 10 years ago, I started doing the opposite. I come around the mongoose or the Wimberley, and I hold my lens from the bottom. So then if I need to stabilize, of course, if you can lock your stuff up, you're going to get sharper pictures, but then you're limited for flight and action.
I still put my hand on top. And I put my head, my eye, right into the eyepiece really tight. And then it becomes that it's one thing that's moving like this. So my hand-eye coordination along with my hand is making it move. So it kind of, it takes away that feeling of having something in between me and just my hand and eye.
You can try both and see which one works best for you.
What we're saying when we're saying exposing to the right is we want your exposure pushed as far to the right as it can without hitting the wall over here. So if you hit the wall, that's when you're going to get blinkies or highlight alert. If you don't have highlight alert set on your camera, in your camera settings, you need to do that. You should always have that set. No matter what kind of photography you're doing, your highlight alert needs to be enabled. And so you can see here, this is excellent because it's not hitting the wall. But you don't have to be this far over. A lot of people are worried about that. You need information in this last box. So if you're shooting with Nikon, it would only be 4, but it's the same concept, pushing it over. So now what are you doing when you're exposing to the right? You're adding more pixels to your actual image size. You're getting a bigger file.
More information, and you can do it. You can take a picture of a white sky at 0. Take the picture. Then go to shoot the white sky on a cloudy day at +3. Bring the images into my computer, whatever, and compare the size. One will be 2 to 3 megabytes larger, which tells you that you're getting more color information and more detail information.
And the other thing is that you're not going to be going into ACR or Photoshop or whatever and having to bring up too much of your dark. So like you're not going to have, you know, grossly underexposed wings and then you pull it up, and what happens in post-processing when you pull it up, you get that noise and that green. And so you really want to expose properly for your images. It makes a big difference.
What this is showing is that on the highlight end, that you haven't clipped anything. Your whites are going to come in at about 245 here. And on the other hand, on the black end, on the shadow end, you're off the histogram. It's telling you that you're either going to have detail in the dark areas or easily be able to restore any lost detail. So this is a perfect histogram.
Here's an example at Jones Beach, and you know, you see the sky is white. Now this was not baited at all.
It's funny, I was just going to say that.
No, I know, you know what, I don't really like to do that, so you know, I don't even want to get into that discussion. But so for me, I saw the bird and I was getting closer and I noticed a very aggressive photographer walking, and so I decided, take it off the tripod, get ready, and I just was ready for flight because I knew he was going to scare the bird, and that's exactly what happened. And I was just ready. So I got a few shots off, and I was lucky. Oh, this was hard. You know, just trying to frame it, and I just kept waiting for the larger birds not to touch because that was difficult. And that was basically just making sure I had the right exposure. This is in Japan, and you know, trying to just get all of that detail in the wings, you know, again, just getting the right exposure. Sometimes I will sacrifice a few of the white pixels for a shot like this, where if I took my exposure all the way down to expose for those whites, I might darken the bulk of the bird too much. So in a situation like this, it's kind of a judgment call, but sometimes I do what I call sacrificing the whites if they're not as...
Another relevant thing there is that the blinkies that you're seeing
Yeah.
are from the JPEG, which is inherently a little more contrasty. So you can blink the whites in a black and white bird, a smattering or even a little more, and still be able to recover that detail easily.
If you're shooting in RAW.
If you're shooting in RAW. We don't talk to people who shoot JPEGs.
No, that's not true. No, but if you're shooting JPEG, that's not the case, just to be clear.
St. Augustine Alligator Farm, 600, 2x. Better be in manual mode. This is probably close to -2 stops because the meter is seeing the black background, the white's not doing much to influence it. But again, you don't have to know all the exposure theory. All you have to do is take a picture and look at your histogram.
Yeah, anytime I can get any kind of unusual wing pose like this, I love. I kind of just think that looks really cool. And I love a nice clean background too. Getting, you know, them coming right out of the water. Any kind of, again, any kind of interesting pose I'm shooting. And Nickerson Beach, one of my little juvie babies. Yeah. So this is behavior, and I know that this is going to happen because when they get about that size, they're always jumping up and they're getting ready to learn how to fly, so they're going to keep doing that. And so they'll walk around. You just have to be patient. The biggest problem I think that most photographers have is they're just not patient. They want instant gratification. They want to go there, get the shot. If it doesn't happen in 5 minutes, they're ready to move on to something else. You got to sit there.
Maybe that's why I don't get good action shots.
I would rather, yeah. No, I know it's why you don't. I know that because I've shot with him. I'm like, just wait. He's very impatient. You really have to just hang out and just wait. And I know that it's going to happen. It's just when, I can't predict that. And I'm willing to go home with just this one shot and be very happy with that. And other people want to go home with a whole bunch of other shots. But for me, one good shot in a day is worth a day's work. The young one had the fish. The adult brought the fish. The young one had it. It was such a big fish, and it was just struggling for so long. And I was getting nervous because all I could think of is a gull's going to come by, grab the fish and the chick at the same time, right up, get a double meal. And I'm waiting, and the adult's not doing anything. And all of a sudden, she came around, and she started having this worried look. And I said, she's going to grab the fish. She did. She grabbed the fish. I got a couple of shots, and I guess I got lucky because the pose of the young one is just too cute. Oh, love this.
100 to 402. This is the coffee clutch. Next, Magellanic penguins. Black-browed albatross courting on New Island in the Falklands. Next.
Beautiful background. And this isn't an easy shot either. Everybody thinks that these are a dime a dozen. You go there and you're definitely getting one. You really have to look for those backgrounds. Very hard to separate some of these.
In addition, the thing that makes this fairly successful is the two decent head angles.
Yeah.
You're going to take 100 of these, and in 99, one bird or the other's head is going to be away from the camera. Next. A film shot. This is the cover of the original The Art of Bird Photography. It put me on the map way back in '98. Anyway, that's the cover, the old 800 lens, manual focus to 45 feet. 45 feet. And now the Australian pine background is gone, and this picture would have trailers in the background.
This background looks pretty busy, right? But you don't really see whenever you're photographing a nest, you always have that one branch that's covering the
Murphy's
bird,
Law of
something.
nest. Every nest has one branch too many.
Yeah. So these branches are kind of not so bad. So a lot of people would maybe look at this shot and say, there's too many branches, I'm not going to take the shot. I would recommend taking the shot, looking at the back of your camera and seeing if any of those branches were covering the bird or anything, because they tell a story. You know, they're interesting. People love to see that. They want to see birds on their natural nests and everything. They don't really want to see all clean backgrounds. So just because it's not a pristine, clean background doesn't mean it's not an interesting image. So take those shots.
Whether you're a hobbyist or a professional, B&H has the answers to your questions. Experience a world of technology at our New York City Superstore. Connect with us online or give us a call. Our staff of experts is happy to help.